for the last little over a decade now, I've had a heart condition called SVT, which is Supraventricular Tachycardia. I had it for a long time and didn't know what it was because I didn't get diagnosed until January of this year. But it's a heart condition where you have an extra electrode in your heart. Everybody has a point where your heart rhythm starts and a point where it ends, your electrodes. And if you have an extra one in there, because you have SVT, it can be on the left or the right, or in rare cases in the middle. And what happens is the current gets stuck between the bottom electrode and one of those extra ones. So your heart rate is a lot faster because it's stuck between those close electrodes, and you're not getting proper blood flow or oxygen to the rest of your body. So your brain gets you get lightheaded. At least I did. I should probably talk a little more personal, like what I've experienced. I would get lightheaded and dizzy, sometimes a little sick to my stomach. And you have an increased, at least I would have an increased level of anxiety because my heart was doing this weird thing that I had no idea what it was. But my heart rate would get up to 150, 200, all the way up to like 230 plus beats a minute. And when it first started, it wasn't as severe, and it started when I was an 8th grader going into 9th grade. That summer I was playing baseball. My grandpa was one of our coaches, and the first episode I had, we had ran some bases, and we'd sat down for the end of practice, and my grandpa had brought some Pepsis and Mountain Dews for everybody. So I had one of those, and then I'd started an episode, and I had just kind of linked it to the fact that I did some cardio and I had some caffeine, and left it at that. But from there I proceeded to have more and more episodes up until I was having probably a dozen or 2 dozen episodes a year. And I played football from like all through high school dealing with that. And then I got out of high school and wasn't doing like very many sports or like physical activities, and if I was, it was controlled lifting where I could control what I was doing. But then this year I played basketball in January with a buddy and got my heart rate up and started an episode that I just couldn't stop on my own, because over the years I developed these like moves I could do where I would like kind of bend over almost in like a Buddha position actually, and slow my breathing down and basically reset my heart rhythm from that super fast 200 beats per minute to where my heart would actually just kind of pause for a second. I would get this flush over my body, and then it would go back into a normal sinus rhythm, or like a regular rhythm where it would just go back to a normal dun 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 dun. And I'd gone to doctors, and every time I would go, my episode had stopped before I got in there to them, so they never caught it on an EKG or anything. And they kind of just said, maybe it's anxiety, maybe you had too much caffeine today, all sorts of things. And I even wore a vest for a week at one point, and they didn't catch it. But I developed these techniques to stop it on my own basically, and I did that for 11 or 12 years. And because I'm 26, going to be 27 at the end of the month here, and didn't find out till this January, but they basically told me there's 3 options. You can take calcium blockers, which are going to slow your heart rate altogether in general and just decrease your chances of having episodes. You can take a beta blocker, which is basically going to do the same thing as a calcium blocker, but to the next level basically. That's how it was described to me anyway. But my doctor frowned upon doing the beta blockers because it does lower like testosterone and sex drive and stuff like that. And I'm younger, so he didn't want to have to do that. And then the third option was a procedure called a catheter ablation, which is where they actually go in through veins up into your heart with these wires. They induce an episode, get you to have an episode so they can find where that extra electrode is, and then they cauterize it and hopefully eliminate, SVT from your life altogether. So they started me on calcium blockers back in January, and I had a pretty bad episode in March where I couldn't stop it again. It just kept going. So I went back into another ER, and from there they upped my calcium blockers to almost double. And I had another episode this summer up in Wisconsin. We were at the Dells for vacation, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just tired of having these episodes in these places where I was like out in the middle of nowhere and I didn't know what was going to happen, and I wanted to just be able to be present with my family and not worry about those things. So I told my doctor I wanted to consider doing the procedure, and he thought that was a good idea. So he took me through the details of how it would happen, what the recovery would be, and everything. So we went through with the procedure on October 4th, and he went in there, and after 2 tries, is 90% sure he got the spot and got it for good. And since then, it's been 17 days now, and I haven't had an episode. And I've increasingly tried to put myself in conditions that would induce an episode, and I've had luck every time and haven't had one. So it's looking pretty good. I'm thankful for that. And I really just wanted to share this so people who are close to me but not close enough for me to explain to you what's been going on, just to fill you guys in a little bit. And if you don't know me, but know of other people who have had experiences with these types of heart things going on where they don't know what it is, it could be an SVT thing or an AFib thing, where they're just having these weird episodes and they're not really sure what it is and they can't seem to get any answers from doctors. I would just encourage you to encourage them to get in there ASAP. As soon as one starts, get in there so they can catch it on an EKG, because that seemed to be the thing that really allowed them to diagnose me, is catching it on the EKG. So don't ever take life for granted. Don't minimalize the things you're dealing with. Everything is serious. If it's affecting you mentally and physically, it's serious. So don't treat it as anything other than that. Even if what I was dealing with ended up being anxiety, and that's all it was, that's still something. You can still feel physical pain from anxiety. It can lead to other things. So even if you listen to this or read other things about people having these conditions, don't ever minimize your thing, what you're dealing with. If it's anxiety, still go talk to somebody, see a doctor. There was a lot of times where I was embarrassed about what I was going through, thinking it was something serious, but also at the same time thinking maybe I just have anxiety and I'm making this more than it actually is. And that would make me get embarrassed about it and keep it quiet and try to keep it to myself a lot of the time. But I encourage you, or anyone that or anyone that's close to you, to just take things serious. At the end of the day, it's not worth it to play quiet about things and then have it be something serious and then maybe face consequences for that. So take your stuff serious, whatever you're dealing with, and yeah, take care of yourselves, guys.